Thanks for checking out my video on the Deadly Nightshades palette, which is by VE Cosmetics and is a collaboration with Cradle of Filth. This limited edition palette has been newly launched in October, perfectly in time for Halloween season. If you're not familiar with VE Cosmetics, it's a UK-based indie brand. The owner is vegan and therefore conscious when creating this brand to build products that do not have animal-derived ingredients for the skin, and is working towards becoming a palm oil-free business. I only found them through my extensive search trying to look for UK indie brands. So I have recently bought some of their products like palettes and lipsticks, which I'll share in some videos soon. But when I saw this Halloween launch was a collab with Cradle of Filth, I got really excited. If you're a rock music fan like me, you probably have heard of Cradle of Filth. In case you haven't, Cradle of Filth are a metal band hailed from the UK and they're pretty well known. To get more of an idea using good old British humour or pop culture, here's a character called Richmond from the noughties British comedy called IT Crowd, describing Cradle of Filth.
Cradle of Filth are actually one of the best contemporary dark wave bands in the world. I never forget the first time I heard them. Changed my life. Blew my mind. I was lucky I discovered them when I did, because it was around that time that things started to go wrong for me at work. I don't know what happened, but suddenly people just weren't returning my calls.
I love that series. You can watch it on Netflix in the UK or on channel4.com, which I'll link here and in the description box. So I imagine, like a few other people, I wasn't really expecting this collaboration with Cradle of Filth as a metal band. I recently watched back a live stream with Emily Hanhan and Audra at Home. I'll link the video here, but it was interesting to hear Emily Hanhan said she wasn't surprised because she heard about the keyboard player and singer Lindsay Schoolcraft saying that she always wanted to do something with makeup. I find Emily refreshing and her content's really creative, topical and engaging. She's worth checking out. The black cover is awesome with both the VE Cosmetics and Cradle of Filth logos. Kind of reminds me of an album, which is really fitting when you open up the palette, because looking at their shade names, they're actually references to either one of their albums or EPs. At first glance, people might think this colour story doesn't really relate to Cradle of Filth. You might expect something more gothy or vampy instead of these pop of colours. But actually, these colours or shades are closely linked to the cover art of the albums that they're named after, which I'm really into as a concept. This is actually a really big £9 palette. I can't find the exact pan size, so I'll put up a picture here of this compared with a standard Colourpop £9 palette and my Lethal Cosmetics custom £9 palette. Hopefully that gives you an idea that you get a little bit more than you may think. So now I'm going to share my swatches, followed by 3 looks I created with this palette. Those are the swatches, decent pigmentation, the shimmer shades and that darker shade came out really well. So now I'm going to share the looks I created, starting with the first look. I'll show you the shades I used and just give you the gist of how I applied it and where I applied it on my eyes to create the look. I'll then share my final thoughts towards the end of the video after these looks. first look, very much a Cryptoriana themed look, with that foggy grey teal tone alongside that dim lit creamy yellow. Here comes the second look. This is the second look, very much inspired by the Nymphetamine album cover with that fiery orange and warm tones. Here comes the third look. This is the third look, very much inspired by the Medium album cover. By the way, all these album concepts have got inspiration from really interesting themes. It's worth looking up if you're curious about dark, interesting stories. My thoughts: I love the palette and the concept. I think the shades are great, you can get some really good combination of looks with it. In terms of the mattes, the colours are bold, but they're not too bright. They're actually kind of dark, apart from Enslave, which is the yellow one in the middle. But they're very wearable, and the shimmers are beautiful. I really like that Enslave yellow shade, but you do really need a primer to get the most of that shade on your eyelid. In terms of texture or formula, if you prefer or are used to kind of softer feeling shades, Cryptoriana, the Empire or Vampire and Dusk are probably the softest feeling on the pan, but they're more good solid powders. With that, the payoff is good and you can still build colour on the eyes. That Cruelty Red shade lasted forever. You probably need an oil-based cleanser to get it off at the end of the day, which is pretty typical for vegan-based formulas, so it's a pretty good pigment. In terms of wear, they did pretty well. The warmer shades lasted and wore the best, the shimmers performed great and they also lasted pretty well. Damnation and Cryptoriana did fine. I think particularly Damnation does get a little bit patchy afterwards, but honestly it still looked fine and the wear was still good. These shades though are really beautiful. The palette is a little pricier, but let's look at what you really get. For that you're getting limited edition, a limited quantity created by an indie makeup brand. It's with Cradle of Filth, and you get larger pan size with a vegan formula maintaining quality. There are some palettes left at the time this video is posted, so if this is something you want and will appreciate, you still have a chance to get it. For me, this whole package is my type of aesthetic, so I chose to make a special purchase for this to add it to my collection as a limited edition. So let me know what you think about the palette and what you think about Cradle of Filth even. Do you like the aesthetics? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.